Yeah, what did we get in our bags?
So sweet.
She is funny. Did she make these? No, no, it says Hallmark on that. No, she did not make them. Am I on Zoom? Yes, I am. We have the minutes, right?
I have them.
Okay.
We just looked at it.
Should we just table them till,
I think we postpone.
okay,
A few more companies, if we have a full meeting here.
yep,
Yeah, I would feel more comfortable. I haven't had a chance to look them over. Yeah, those are the minutes.
we'll postpone. Mhm.
You don't mind. I will move to table
Okay,
or to postpone until next month.
okay,
It's not a big deal. We just approved both meetings.
Mhm.
Both.
Okay.
He said that on the. Problems, any. So. Problem. Some case.
Good morning, everybody. Are we ready? What?
We only have 45 minutes
That's
for
why
this
you get
meeting
chicken.
too,
Why?
because I said so. Listen to me anyway, so may as well say whatever I want.
This is gonna be a 15-minute meeting. Well, you.
The Madam Chair of the Jobs Committee would like this meeting over at 10 o'clock. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here. I am Mavis Bates. It's 9 o'clock on March 17th, 2023. And what day is this, Chris?
It's St. Patrick's
It's
Day.
St. Patrick's Day.
Oh, Bagosh and Megora.
This committee looks like we had a contest to see who had the most green on. And I think, show us your suspenders, Chris, the green suspenders.
Wow.
You've already seen them, right?
Right.
You may win.
Careful,
Okay.
or when I get down to my suspenders, we're in trouble.
Oh, dear. Please call the roll.
Is this recorded for posterity? Oh,
I'm afraid so.
Alan,
Please call the roll.
Caius,
Gaius, present, yeah.
Here.
Strathman,
Top of the morning to ya,
That's
and
it.
I'm here.
Young,
Young here.
Carver,
Carver's here.
Bates,
Bates here.
Hurog, Tepe. You have quorum.
Okay, thank you very much. I would like a motion to table the minutes for February 17th to our next meeting since
Gaius
there
would
is a
move
little
that we
problem.
postpone the minutes, the approval of the minutes until our next regular meeting.
Thank you. May I have a second, please?
Carver seconds.
Okay, do we need a roll call on that?
Yeah.
Okay, please call the roll on postponing the minutes.
Mavis, could I ask a question?
Yes.
The reasoning?
We just got them.
They weren't attached to the email.
Okay,
That was my mistake.
all right,
I was
that's fine.
trying to.
Okay, I just wanted
cover
to
that
know.
up a
No,
little bit.
Thank
no
you.
blame. No blame.
No
Yep,
problem.
Yep.
Alan, Caius,
Guys, yes.
Roth,
Roth, yes.
Strathman,
Strathman, yes.
Young,
Young, yes.
Carver,
Tarver, yes.
Bates.
Bates, yes.
Passes.
Okay, thank you. Is there any public comment? I see nobody in the room. And I see no one online, so I don't believe there's any public comment for today. So I will ask Ms. Wolnick to start her presentation.
Blair, can you pull that up, please? The big screen isn't working, but I can do it from here.
Is it flashing or?
Yeah, it's flashing, yeah.
You should be able to see down
Yeah,
there.
I'll just use
I may
that
have to run up to reset it upstairs.
Really?
Up there in the rack.
Okay.
Can everybody see the screen?
Online is going out.
Okay, everything,
So,
everybody else can see.
Yeah,
it.
it's just. a
Perfect.
projector. It's-
Okay, we have a quick update for you this morning on our water sustainability grants that we received from the American Rescue Plan. So the first one I want to talk about is the Kane County Water Conservation Technical Assistance Grants. These are grants that our municipalities and water suppliers in Kane County will be able to apply for. We are working specifically with Illinois Indiana Sea Grant and the University of Illinois and their technical professionals there to begin the process of looking at possible applications for the program for technical assistance. We've reviewed the grant application with Illinois Indiana Sea Grant, and that is now finalized. They are working at launching the website and our Clean Water for Kane website page, landing page from the county will have a link out to that as well. And we're expecting that those applications will be launched in late spring or early summer. And they are currently working on a logo for conservation for Kane based on our Clean Water for Kane. So we're going to kind of use the same color schematic so we can all identify that program through the same logoing system. So what kind of grants are we looking for? What technical assistance requests are potentially going to come in? One big area is outdoor water efficiency. And so potentially looking at any of our municipalities or water suppliers that are experiencing very high water use, either in certain neighborhoods or across their service area. This could be looking at different fee structures for that municipality. It could be looking at smart sensors and also water conserving ordinances. Just an example here for you. The one on the left is an example of a seed and sod ordinance where potentially you wouldn't allow people to seed or sod during the heat of summer. And you can do that through the ordinance. And then we also have a smart controller there. And that looks at the soil moisture and the incoming weather and then makes a determination of whether watering is necessary. Internal residential indoor efficiency. This is really targeted to older neighborhoods and municipalities that are experiencing high water use in older homes that potentially have older toilets, older fixtures, and working with them to possibly stand up a program to start replacing those, as well as some leak detection assistance. Pricing wise, that's another option for anyone applying for the technical assistance grant. Would be how are we pricing our water? Are we encouraging people to use more water? And then if we do implement water conservation measures, will we still be able to afford to run our water system? And so they have great accountants and people that are really well experienced with water pricing and the impacts of implementing a water conservation program, and they can assist our water providers in that aspect.
Could you go over this slide in a little more detail, please? Are you talking about possibly charging more water as people use more?
Correct. That
More
would be a conserving water. So that would be an increasing block type of water pricing.
Okay.
So the more they use, Roth here, it goes up, right?
Correct. And that can then lead to water conservation, and then your overall income to that utility decreases. And so there's the concern there that then you have to raise everybody's water prices. And so we can really look into the details of that and give advice to the water provider to make sure that they're still maintaining their revenues even with an increasing block type of rate.
Could you explain this slide to me?
It's really just meant to be an example. So the uniform rate would be everyone pays the same no matter how much they're using. An increasing block means if you use over a certain amount, then you're actually paying double or triple. Decreasing block would be the more you use, the less you pay. And then the other is the other folks. So this is from the Alliance for Water Efficiency, and they had just gathered some data in regards to pricing for residential and non-residential. And those were the percentages of each type of.
This is the existing data. Okay.
Exactly, exactly.
All right.
All right,
Thank you.
I have another question.
Sure,
Roth.
go ahead.
They're not looking at like
Mhm.
the time of day you use the water, like watering during the day is probably not.
That would be on the side of more the regulations. So your water conservation measures, even odd 6 to 9, 6 to 9, and then anyone out of that would be fined potentially by the
Well,
municipality.
but I'm thinking more like ComEd does, at the meter, they actually, charge a different rate. I mean, I know it would involve new technology on the meters.
That is not something I've heard on the water side yet, but certainly if somebody was interested, that potentially could be an avenue
Well,
to
because
look
then
at.
the people are making the choice to
Yeah.
whether they want to pay more. And stuff.
Yeah, and certainly that also goes into everything is sized for that peak hour.
Right.
And so that potentially could save a water utility a lot of money in the infrastructure side of things.
And with the technology, I would think that would be feasible without being super expensive.
Definitely.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
So just to give you an idea, typical urban water use, we do see the majority of it coming from landscape watering. So the biggest bang for our buck is going to be reducing that landscape water use. So when we're looking at the different requests from the municipalities, we are going to be taking into account, kind of where are we going to see the greatest improvement in water conservation, and this will be one of the mechanisms we utilize to evaluate the requests.
This is shocking to me, by the way. We're sprinkling our lawns with 2/3 of our water.
Well, and it's drinking water. So you've
Potable
pumped it out
water.
of the ground. You've spent all the energy and the electricity and the chemicals to treat it to a drinking water standard, and we're just putting it on to a lawn.
Mhm.
So yeah, it goes a lot to speaking to the water reuse side of things and rain barrels and the importance of using non-potable water for that purpose. So the other three projects all kind of fall under this Illinois State Water Survey Sustainability Model. We had a kickoff meeting with them just in the last couple weeks, and we're currently working on the stakeholder list for our communities, making sure that we're going to be involving all the decision makers as well as the folks on the ground with each of our municipalities in our discussion groups. And so we're doing that outreach now to make sure that our list is complete. So when we do the kickoff meeting, which we're hoping to do early in spring here, that we have a great group of folks that are going to assist us in directing the modeling efforts. And so, yeah, that's pretty much that. I don't have a whole lot more to report on that one, but we will be getting into the weeds with it very quickly here, and are excited to see how that one comes together as well. That's all I have for the water sustainability.
Any questions from the committee? I have a question. Is there any talk about gray water in this?
That's a potential grant application for the technical assistance. So we're kind of grouping that into the water conservation side, because the more gray water you use, the less potable water you use.
Can we define gray water, Roth?
Water would be, in the case of Illinois, because you can't reuse water that's coming out of like your laundry or your toilets. So it'd be water that potentially isn't contaminated. So we could consider that like your rainwater, or if it goes, your wastewater goes to a treatment plant and it's being treated to a certain like standard, that could be used as your gray water, or, internal to your house, water that isn't like contaminated with fecal and bacteria.
Okay.
So there's certain standards under the plumbing code of what can be used as gray water and
Right.
what you can use it for. So like for flushing of toilets, that you can use gray water for irrigation, that you can use some gray water
Well,
applications.
and
for.
since the one chart showed majority was landscaping, I mean, I think my grandparents in Peoria had a well. I mean, that was all the water off the rainwater. It went into a cistern. And,
Mhm.
because what normally you fill one rain barrel in one rainfall, right? So if we could figure out a way to store more water.
Or water our lawns less.
Yeah. Well, but I mean, there's so much water that causes flooding too. So if you can,
Absolutely.
and I have a perfect example at our museum, we do not have running water. We have to bring in bottled water. And we use a lot of rainwater and we don't have enough barrels to capture it all, which then causes flooding.
Mhm.
And this, the gray water that I studied was, say, the water from your shower that could go into, I mean, that's not very dirty water. It's not like, from a toilet. So that water could go into a system in your basement that would be minimally processed enough to go onto your lawn or flush a toilet with. And there'd be a machine in your basement that would do
Right.
that.
But then you would require double plumbing for waste.
Yes, it would.
Yeah, and it's currently, as I understand, isn't allowed under the Illinois plumbing code. You'd actually have to have a variance for that. So you can recapture like rainwater,
Right.
and reuse that for your lawn and irrigation, but anything internal to the house, you would require a variance for that.
Because there's a lot of rain, we get a lot of rain, so that's an easier hit without a lot of investment, I would think.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Walnick, next on the,
I am, excuse me, I had a
oh,
question.
Mr. Young, I'm sorry, go ahead, please.
It's okay. This is David Young. Do we have, in Kane County, is there a lack of water in the wells or what's being pumped, I imagine, from Lake Michigan? Is there, to my knowledge, we don't have a drought, or we don't have like the same kind of conditions that you have in California. And I'm just curious where this is all coming from.
Yeah, we don't actually have any communities in Kane County that are currently receiving Lake Michigan water. So Elgin and Aurora do draw water from the Fox River, but it's not 100% that they're able to draw there from the entire 365 days of the year. Usually it's around 60%, and they're using aquifers for the remaining. So it's a long answer. So I certainly welcome you to, stop by my office and we can go into a lot more detail. But we have two issues going on. First, our residents that are using the shallow aquifer system, that is being severely contaminated by chlorides in our road salts, to the point that we're seeing just huge jumps we're looking at a very short horizon, to the point at which they're basically going to be drinking salt water. So that's one of the modeling efforts, is to give us some dates and times on when those folks might need to start switching off that aquifer system or putting in significantly more expensive treatment. On our deep aquifer system, which is recharged over thousands of years, that water is actually coming from southern Wisconsin up towards the Rockford area. That is being depleted in hundreds of feet. So it's a volume issue with that because it can't recharge fast enough. We're seeing significant drawdown from the Will County area, the Joliet area. And so we are already experiencing reductions in the capacity of our wells in that system. And that system is not sustainable because there's no way to to recharge it efficiently. And it takes so many hundreds of years to actually get that volume. So you basically have a giant underground reservoir that we're using water out of faster than it's refilling. So that's the concern. And so what our options are potentially are looking at more municipalities utilizing the Fox River water. But again, we know that that's not 100%, 365 days of the year, that's going to be an option. So they need a backup supply to that. And then looking at potentially extending some of these transmission mains from the Lake Michigan water. Does that make sense for any of our communities? And so this study is going to really dig into a lot of that and hopefully provide our municipalities with some long-term data that they can start planning around.
Okay, sounds like we need data. Sounds like it's all a bunch of,
I
What
think
if
you must have,
scenarios
you might
going on
have
right
missed
now.
my slide, and it basically said data. If you remember that slide. But yes, we have some really good models, but they haven't dug down to the level
Sure.
that we really need for our municipalities to make that
So-
planning effort.
right, so it sounds like a really big guess right now.
It's a
And
guess,
from-
especially, with the planning horizon. Do we have 20 years? Do we have 50 years? Like that's the
Yeah.
big piece that's in my mind of concern. And how much because the shallow aquifers are recharged so quickly, how much can we reduce our salt usage to possibly, is it even feasible to extend that and start talking to our residents about maybe the road doesn't have to be completely cleared right after a snowstorm, and we can just be a little bit more cautious in that effort so we can start saving that aquifer system a little bit better.
All right, we'll just have to see what the data looks like. I'm a complete skeptic because
You
to
are
my knowledge, we
complete-
don't have any,
We
we don't
are
have
wel-
any issues. So
we are,
love to
we
see
are
the data.
welcoming anyone and everyone to this to these sessions, especially decision makers. So if you would like me to add your name to the list or any other committee members or county board members, please let me know and I will add it to the list.
Please add our whole committee to the list.
And me.
Oh, and
Once we get the
Oh, I
data,
have a
we'd
question.
love to have it on further discussion.
I'm on
Mr.
too
would.
many
Caius.
committees, sorry.
Mr. Caius?
No committees. I'm on too many committees. I have a question. Now, as skeptical as we might be about this, and data is really important, there are cases in the United States where aquifers have been drawn down in the recent past. Is that correct? Like Western Kansas and things like that, that
Yeah,
they
I mean,
can't recharge them fast
there
enough?
there are wells in Kane County or in Will County that are not operable
Right now.
because they've drawn them down so far. And then in
1,500 feet.
Wisconsin, what they're seeing is when they're drawing down the St. Peter Aquifer to a point, what happens is they start getting what wasn't ever exposed to air is now exposed to air. And so they are having huge numbers of arsenic contamination in their wells. So you have a contamination as well as a sustainability as that aquifer is drawn down.
Is St. Peter's the deep one?
That's one of the deep ones. The other one is the Ironton Galesville.
Could you provide, could I ask that you provide us some information, or at least some reference, some links to those particular cases that are occurring actually in our area about aquifer problems? That might help clarify the potential possibility that this could happen. It may not happen, but
Well, that's what we're trying to prevent.
we
Exactly.
want to be ahead. Yeah.
Thank you. Next slide, please.
Yep, we have a resolution before you this morning. Just a little bit of background. We've been operating electric aggregation program for our unincorporated residents, with the exception of Dundee and Aurora Townships since 2014. This program is to save the residents money on their ComEd bills. It was went through a referendum. They voted affirmatively for an opt-out program. That means everyone is in the program unless they don't want to be. The past 2 years, due to the ComEd rates, everyone that is operating these electric aggregation programs had a lot of challenges because the programs could not compete with the ComEd rates. And so as you will recall, we did a green program this past year with a civic contribution that we're now using for our climate action planning program. But as we are hearing, which is great news, is that the outlook for the residents is that the program is going to kick back in, that we will get hopefully very good numbers, that we can go back to saving the residents money. So we're super excited about that. We did note, and I apologize for the late timing of the selection of the group. The contract for the services to actually go out to bid is actually paid through the kilowatt hour charge. It's a very small percentage. And they help us with the selection side and the bidding side of the company for our residents. And so because of the fact that these contracts go so long, we had not realized that the contract with our consultant had expired because it's a 5-year contract with 3 renewals. So we were actually on the original contract from 2014. And ComEd rates come out in May. We have a very short time frame to get the bids and the numbers and then switch everybody over for the program. And so we were trying very hard to make this meeting to make sure we stay on our timeline for the project. So we received 2 proposals to be the energy consultant for this program. And we did actually expand in our request for proposal this time. We've had a lot of opportunities that can save the county money with different community solar type applications, energy efficiency side of things, solar projects that are out there. And what we were seeing is we were working with 3 or 4 different people. And so we wanted to incorporate those services as well into this contract at a negotiated price if they do come up. To make sure that we do have somebody that's out there that's looking on our behalf for these opportunities and bringing them to us. So that's going to be a great asset. So we aren't out there searching for them. Somebody is going to be looking on our behalf to help us save money on the electrical side of things. So we had two people that submitted proposals, Progressive Energy Group and Illinois Aggregation Consultants out of Chicago. And we reviewed their qualifications based on their approach, their fees, their experience and capacity, and their compliance and their references. And Progressive Energy Group out of Aurora was rated the highest. And so we're recommending approval of a 5-year contract with Progressive Energy Group for the Kane County Electric Aggregation Program for unincorporated Kane County. And that would include 3 1-year renewals with the approval of the county board. And this would give the residents the opportunity to re-engage this great program to help save them money on their electric bills. And I would just note too, Progressive Energy is the same company that worked with us on the 2 megawatt solar field that's out on the Judicial Center site. So we've had a really great experience with them, and they continue to bring us different opportunities. Not all of them work out because obviously we haven't brought anything else to the board here. But with the energy saving program, the LED light program that Roger Fonstock is working on in the two buildings, they have a lot of grant opportunities potentially for us in regards to that as well. So I think it's going to be overall a great partnership.
Roth here. Who would that be helping? It would be helping county, or it would be helping cities or residents?
They're going to be doing the bids for the residents in the unincorporated electric aggregation program, except for Dundee Township and Aurora Township. So that will kick off here very quickly once their contract is approved, and then everyone is switched over in October? No, August. And so that will be the main, that's the main part of this this resolution, but it also allows them, if they do come with here's another program, or here in that will be for the county's energy efficiency and saving the county money for our electric use.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Can you remind me why Dundee and Aurora are not in the aggregation?
They're doing their own program. And one of the recommendations in the RFP that was presented by both of these responders actually was that it might be advantageous to us to actually partner with folks that have similar electric loads to us. And so what we wouldn't want to do is partner with any of these other electric aggregation programs that have different loads to us, because then it would increase our residents' costs. But if we're looking at another township, like Dundee Township is very similar to unincorporated Kane, potentially it would save them money and it would save us money. And so that's something in the RFP that Progressive Energy will be looking at, is possibly bidding together. The challenge with that is that we're all on different cycles for these agreements. And so we'd have to have, if that looks like something that could be positive, we'd have to have like an agreement go like 2.5 years. So we line all of our agreements up. But for the future and the money savings for our residents, it seems like that might be a viable idea. And then everybody saves money.
Thank you.
Okay, I wanted to point out or get some advice on so did you give this copy to everybody on the committee? So if you look at this and you look at the screen has X's in it. This one says Progressive. So this is the resolution that we'll really be voting on, is the one that
The updated one.
is the updated one. Yes. Okay. All right. Any other questions?
Since David's online, it was an
Oh.
email to him.
It was emailed last night. Yes. And
Okay.
again, I apologize for the late time, but this was one of those contracts you don't think about because it's so long. So.
He took his.
Yeah,
hand
I
down.
had a question. That was my question exactly. I only see X's here on my screen, and then also, so I'd like to have that updated and maybe postpone that to the next meeting, because the other thing is that I don't even know who the other bidders. You said you had several other people that bid on this, but is there information as to what this is going to cost? I don't see that in this RFP, and how much it's going to cost and what the other contractors bid.
Yes,
is
it
that
was
something you could share?
it was in the email that went out to you at 4:30 yesterday. That has the scoring of both of the respondents to the proposal, as well as the revised resolution.
David, it came at 4:31 yesterday from Jody.
Okay, but there's no, okay, so in the future, I guess, because I see those emails, but I'm assuming that the packet online is the most up-to-date packet, but that is incorrect.
That is correct, because we weren't able to update the packet before this came in. This came in Thursday.
Right.
Exactly, like I mentioned, I apologize. This is super late. But in order to meet the time frame before our current contract expires with Eligo, and make sure we make the transition for these folks, which I believe there's 16,000 different accounts. So it takes quite a bit of time to verify all the accounts and transfer them over to the new vendor. I appreciate you guys moving this forward, the committee moving this forward today.
And the packet that went out a week ago had all of the same information in it except the name.
Correct. It had the resolution, so it's able to be acted on today.
Mhm.
But we did not get the RFPs in until yesterday. And so we were working on them diligently yesterday to get them to meet this meeting.
And the cost of the consultant is in the resolution that came out in the packet a week ago.
Correct. It's 0.00025 cents per kilowatt hour.
To a
And the-
maximum of 35,000.
So the county does not pay for the consultant at all. That fee is included from whatever contract the consultant and the county awards to the energy provider. So the
Okay.
energy provider is paying the consultant,
Oh, thank you.
and that's up to a maximum of
That was Ms.
$35,000.
Clee speaking.
Mhm.
Okay.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Caius?
Ms. Caius, so with this resolution, should we pass it today, would go to finance, then exec, then the full board. So there'll be a chance to, for finance, will be reviewing this as well.
Yes,
there's
and
a
it's
chance to
already,
modify it.
updated in the Legistar system. So the updated procurement synopsis as well as the updated resolution will move on to finance and it will be correct in their packet.
I should have asked for a motion in a second, 5 minutes ago.
Well,
Mr.
I will move.
Strathman will second.
Caius moves, Strathman seconds. Is there any discussion? We already had some discussion.
Any more?
Move with
discussion?
apologies to Mr. Young that we don't have it all together here. We'll put it on our calendar for 5 years, right? So we get ahead of it next time.
Well, this is, thank you, Mr. Young.
Sorry, David.
Okay, may I call the roll, please?
Allen, Caius,
Caius, yes.
Roth,
Roth, yes.
Strathman,
Strathman, yes.
Young,
Young, no.
Tarver,
Tarver, yes.
Bates,
Bates, yes.
passes with 1 no.
Okay, thank you. Shall we move on to Ms. Ryan?
Sure.
please?
Oh, thank you. So for those who are new to the committee, may have not experienced it yet, but I typically, the recycling program coordinator has typically given an annual review of everything that happened in recycling for the previous year in April, Earth Month. But to make it just a little bit less overwhelming for both me and all of you, we decided to break it up a little bit. So I'm going to do our 2022 in review for the household hazardous waste component of our program today. And then we'll do everything else. So curbside numbers and the our recycling centers will do that in April. So just a quick definition. What is household hazardous waste that these programs are intended to handle? Is basically unwanted residual product, chemical containing product that's currently or has previously been available on the consumer market for household use. So like these programs are not intended to deal, like if someone somehow got a hold of some kind of military ordinance illicitly, they're not intended to deal with that. Like at-home drug labs, things like that. Again, that's not the intention of these programs. But they do sometimes deal with some quite nasty substances. It's hard to see in the picture, but there's a picture of a thermometer. We do occasionally get residents calling who still have mercury thermometers, and they don't know what to do with them. So that is something that is handled through the programs. These products generally have some kind of known degree of environmental or human health toxicity, or they pose other hazards in the normal waste stream. An example of that would be lithium ion batteries. They're not particularly toxic, but they can cause some significant fires in recycling or in landfills, garbage trucks, that kind of thing. Household hazardous waste also fall under the Federal Resource Conservation and Recovery Act, RCRA, the household exemption, unless state law is more stringent. That means for the vast majority of these materials, residents can just throw household quantities in their normal garbage legally. There are some, state laws, for example, motor oil is prohibited from the landfill in Illinois. However, almost universally, your waste handling companies would prefer that these not be in their trucks, in their garbage trucks, in their transfer stations, and in their landfills, honestly, because of risks of leakage, fire, exposure to their employees. So that's why we have household hazardous waste programs. There are 3 types of outlets for Kane County residents that I'll be talking mostly about the first 2. The first is the Naperville drop-off facility is one of 4 IEPA subsidized household hazardous waste facilities in the state. It's at 156 Fort Hill Drive, which is on the northwest side of Naperville. So it's not super inconvenient to residents of, I would say, Aurora, North Aurora, Batavia. It's not that bad. The Kane County also pays a little bit into the center to help support its continued operations on an annual basis. It is open to all state residents without any fee to drop off. It's only open on the weekends, both Saturdays and Sundays from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. That's convenient for folks like us that work a regular work week, but might not be convenient for other people. I'll be talking as well, of course, about the Kane County Recycling Program Managed Home Pickup Program. That is only available in eligible areas, which the eligibility includes residents of the 6 northernmost townships in the county, minus the city of Elgin. I'll explain why in a minute. Plus the cities of Batavia and Geneva, Mill Creek, and all of unincorporated Blackberry Township. Residents in eligible areas are entitled to 1 use of the program per year without paying a direct fee for service. However, many of the larger municipalities, and certainly the ones that have been added from the northern 6 townships, so Batavia and Geneva and Mill Creek, they buy in with a $3 per household per year charge that's typically assessed through their waste hauling contract. And then finally, if you're interested in letting folks know about this program, it's scheduled online or by phone, not through me, but through our contracted hazardous waste company, and it's available year round. And then finally, there are some hauler and municipal run services. The reason Elgin, City of Elgin isn't part of our program is because they use Waste Management's At Your Door program. Waste Management is their franchise hauler for their normal garbage. And Maple Park actually has that program as well. And then occasionally there are like one-off hauler events. And these can be structured in different ways. Sometimes it's just once a year, the hauler will send a truck for household hazardous waste around, or sometimes they just give the municipality money back to hire their own hazardous waste contractor for a one-day event. And I believe, at least in terms of what it says in the contracts, East and West Dundee both do one of these, as does Pingree Grove and Sugar Grove. But I don't necessarily get data for those. So those aren't really included. The Elgin program is, but the other ones aren't in terms of what I'll be talking about. So in Naperville in 2022, there were 1,946 drop-offs by Kane County residents, which accounts for 10.8% of the total visits to that center. That's down a little bit. We typically see Kane County residents account for between 12 and 15% of visits. And Kane County residents through that activity disposed of 52,750 pounds of material. That's hard number to wrap your head around. It's equivalent of weight to 2 large school buses. By far the most common material taken in by the Naperville facility last year was flammable liquids. That's kind of a catch-all term, would include gasoline, propane, and probably other stuff as well. Oil-based paint is a big one as well. And the pie graph shows where folks in Kane County, this is only the Kane County drop-offs, where they were coming from. It makes sense about 25% of the largest chunk are coming from Aurora just due to proximity. What's kind of interesting is to see, even though St. Charles is further away, more people are coming from St. Charles than Geneva or Batavia. And I think that's because Geneva and Batavia participate in our program. You do have people coming as far away as Elgin. That might be unincorporated Elgin since the city has their own program. North Aurora, Montgomery, and then the rest of Kane that's pretty distant from the center coming, but you do have a 19% slice of the pie from those other places. A one-year snapshot is only so interesting. I think it's important to put things in context of the data that we have, which goes back at least 10 years. So we did that, both the blue dots and linear regression there are the number of visits, and the red is the weight of material. You do see the number of visits is roughly flat. It's, fairly, just fairly standard over the time, but the weight of material is, reducing a little bit over time. That means the program is becoming less efficient, which is not always great to see. And you will know a substantial drop in 2022 compared to all the past years. And there is actually a good reason for that, which was the Heritage Thermal Services fire, which occurred on June 27th of last year in East Liverpool, Ohio. So Heritage Thermal Services is IEPA's contracted incinerator for basically all of its household hazardous waste sites. They don't incinerate all the products brought to these centers, but they do some of them for which there are no recycling options. The fire was caused by a welding spark during scrubber repair. The scrubbers are really important. They clean the air emissions coming from the smokestacks to meet Clean Air Act permit requirements. It was, depending on who you talk to, the company tried to downplay it a lot and said, the fire was out within an hour and a half, but it was like a 6 fire department response. Due to the maintenance outage, no actual waste was involved in this fire. So that's a good thing, because you don't want runaway or uncontrolled burning of waste ever. And there were no injuries, which is also a very good thing. However, there is definitely significant structural damage to the site. And the proof is in the pudding, because the result for our drop-off programs was that they had to run with a very limited item acceptance list since August of last year. And they are just returning to full capacity now. Last weekend was the first weekend since August of last year that Naperville could take its normal full suite of items. So we are back at full operation, and I think we'll see that in the numbers for next year as the word gets out that things are back to normal.
That's the same thing that happened to Notre Dame, the welders.
Oh, I didn't know that.
All right.
Those stars.
This is kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't, because you can't not maintain your scrubber.
Right.
Well, there are safety, excuse me, this Caius, there are safety measures like putting down a mat that keeps
Yeah.
Fireproof man.
someone missed something somewhere.
Possibly, yeah.
Madam Chair, I have a question. From the, going back to that pie chart that showed what percent, can you calculate how much isn't being, that is probably getting thrown in our trash? If you had, let's say, I'm just throwing out hypothetically, in St. Charles, let's say it was 100 people, and we know there's 3,000 people or whatever, and if on the average they dropped off a pound, then could you approximate? I know it's a rough estimate, and not everyone has chemicals.
Not really, because we don't know. The other behavior that you can't really monitor is people just holding on to stuff and storing it in their basement forever.
Which is
Yeah.
a risk too, though, long term.
Yeah. But we don't really know. I don't think.
Okay, because based off of sampling, that you might be able to, and it's not, you can go to the bank with, but then it also is something in our back of our mind. We
Yeah.
have this liability out there of chemicals at some point
Mhm.
may get dumped in the garbage.
Could be.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And then for our home pickup program. So we had a contractor transition in March. It wasn't necessarily the smoothest thing in the world because I was brand new as well. And we didn't know it at the time, but our program was actually Clean Harbors, which is a national company. It's not just like a local operation. It was their first deployment of a home-based pickup program, which I'm not sure they said in their bid or not. You'd have to ask Jennifer, but so it wasn't the smoothest thing in the world, but it is working. We've had 309 program uses in 2022, which is at least 20 per month, except for the months on either side of the transition. You do have some awkwardness there because your leaving company is not going to be taking referrals for the company coming in. So the first month was kind of slow. We did collect 2,400 or 24,000 odd pounds of material. That would be one weight of one large school bus. 50% of the material that was collected, approximately, I think it was like 51%, was recycled, and the other half was incinerated. The number one class of material collected by our program was pesticides and fertilizers. It accounts for 1/3 of all the material collected and 2/3 of all material incinerated. You cannot recycle pesticide. There really is just no other safe way to deal with it. And then the number two class of material collected was latex paint. It accounted for 25% of all material by weight, and then half of all the material recycled. I guess the takeaway for me for that is that people are really overbuying lawn chemicals and house paint. I'm not sure if there should be ways that we can maybe get some messaging out about that and try and just maybe encourage people to share with their neighbors, maybe a cooperative for the lawn chemicals, and then house paint. Just to try and buy to the size that you have. People always want to keep extra for patch ups and things like that, but a lot of times it sits and sits and sits until the color match isn't even good anymore. So I'm not really sure that's the best way to go. Anyway, so for our program, we saw very high use, about 25% of all users from both Geneva and Batavia. And then South Elgin, one of the larger population centers, from the northern townships, made up 13.5%. Other would include, Carpentersville and, other includes actually quite a lot, but made up about 25%. And then we see a good chunk of use as well from West Dundee and Plateau Township. I think part of the reason for City of Geneva and Batavia being such strong users is that their public works folks are intimately aware of that $3 per household charge that folks are paying. And they do a good job of getting information about the program out there on their websites. They do a good job of training their customer service folks. So when people call, they get told to check out our website, or they get given the phone number to book an appointment. I'm not saying that doesn't happen in other places. It's just, the program has been in place for a longer period of time in the northern townships, and they maybe, aren't as enthusiastic about it anymore. I'm not sure. That's a hypothesis. So here's that same graph of users over time and weight of material over time. You do see that both are increasing gradually. 2022 was a little bit of a down year, both more so for users than material. And again, I think it's really due to that program transition where we had a couple months without many appointments booked. Just briefly, the Elgin at Your Door program so I had to estimate the number of program users. I did not get that information from the city in time to put it in here, but I would guess about 750 program users. They brought in a lot of material, 57,000 pounds. That's 2 more school buses. Waste Management claims 81% recycled, 19% incinerated. I think a large part of that is because they brought in just an enormous quantity of latex paint. It was 43% of all the material that they collected, and at least 53% of all the material that they recycled. And then the number 2 class of material they collected was oil-based paint, which was 9% of all material. So that's a huge jump from enormous amount of latex paint. And then the next closest oil-based paint was a lot less. So again, the takeaway, people are really, really overbuying their house paint. And then, yeah,
Are we able to recycle 100% of the latex paint or some of it have to be?
it has to be liquid. As long as it's still liquid, it can be recycled. If someone, signs up for the program and some of their cans are solidified, that's gonna get thrown away.
Okay.
The can might be
Well,
recycled.
over the years, I've always seen literature and that's what you're supposed to do is, take the lid off and let it dry up. So,
For if you.
but
if
you
you're
can't
going to-
recycle that then is what you're saying, right?
Right. If you're going to throw it in the household trash, which is legal, you would want to dry it out just so it's not slopping all over.
Thank you.
So when you put it all together, for 2022, we had more than 3,000 safe disposals of household hazardous waste by Kane County residents, which accounted for about 134,000 pounds, 67 tons, AKA 5 school buses. For the 3 programs I have data for, you see that the Naperville has the most users or uses with about 65%. Elgin has 25%, and we're kind of low with 10%. But in terms of material, I'm happy to say we punch above our weight. We've got 18% of all the material collected. So our program is being used a lot more efficiently, I would say, than the Naperville drop off. Maybe it's, yeah. So I'll just say I'm happy with that. And that's really what I had on household hazardous
Okay,
waste for
thank
you.
you, Claire. Ms. Ryan, any questions?
I have an easy question for you.
Yeah.
Are you guys gonna do the sign pickup again after the election?
Oh, I don't have one scheduled. I might still be able to.
Okay, I was just curious because it works so well in fall
Hmm.
that I was curious if we're gonna do it again in spring, which is April 4th.
I also noticed there's a lot more signs up now than there were last November because of, the school boards. Well, there's more people running, and nonpartisan. And I'm seeing a lot more signs than I did last November. So it would,
We loved your program, Claire, last.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I used it.
No pressure, but make it happen.
Thank you, Ms. Ryan. Let's
You're
move on to Ms. Klee, please.
Good morning, everyone. I'm going to run through some sustainability program updates for all the committee members this morning. So just an update on the climate action implementation plan and where we are in the process. The consultant team has conducted an extensive data collection and review of the countywide climate and sustainability indicators, and they've combined that data into 4 documents: a vulnerability assessment, a greenhouse gas inventory forecast, a ground cover survey, and a renewable energy potential study. And additionally, those findings in all of those studies are summarized in a baseline research document, which includes preliminary goals for each of the sectors anticipated to be included in the plan. And exciting news, the baseline assessment and strategic goal recommendations were completed last night. So we will have an update on those at the next meeting for you all. So where we are in our scheduling for the project, the existing conditions documentation and assessment has been completed, which is exciting. And we're ramping up for community engagement to take place. We have already completed some community engagement with the Farm Bureau. We had a meeting with them to talk about some of the existing data and kind of talk about some of the things that they're doing and just get some more data and research from them, kind of start the conversation. And then for the rest of this month, there are a couple of events planned, which I'll talk about later in my presentation, to engage the public on this plan and get some more public input. And you can take a look at the rest of the schedules there for you as well. There'll be climate action team engagement further on in drafting of the plan later on this year in September and October. So I think we're still pretty much on schedule. So that's good. So I did want to talk a little bit about, I put up this slide. I know it's a lot of numbers, but this is just a brief overview of the greenhouse gas emissions that were summarized. So the consultant utilized data from Chicago Metropolitan Agency for Planning. They put together a greenhouse gas inventory for the Chicago metro region, including county data and municipality data. So they took a look at that and personalized it to Kane County. So they looked at 2010 data, 2019 data, and then a 9-year trend. So you can see all those numbers up on the slide. Just to kind of give us a summary, the countywide greenhouse gas emissions totaled over 7 million metric tons for 2019. However, that amount is almost 5% less than it was in 2010. So that is good news, and that we are trending downward. And just to kind of give you a sense of how much 7 million metric tons is, you can visualize it as a volume of human-made atmosphere that is over 137 billion cubic feet. So roughly a mile high, a mile wide, and a mile deep. There's that image on the screen. I think it's kind of nice. So you can see what that looks like. It's seen there about 2.5 miles away from north of Aurora.
Kind of the Borg cube.
Yeah.
It does. It does look like the Borg cube.
And then just looking at where all those emissions are coming from, we did do a countywide greenhouse gas breakdown by sector. Agriculture makes up around 2.4%. We have 3.2% as solid waste, 31.7% is transportation, 28.4% is natural gas, and then 34.3% is electricity. So those are all the sectors that we're currently looking at, just to kind of break down where things are coming from. And then comparing Kane County to other communities within the region, and also on a larger scale, our per capita emissions are higher than many of the other communities in Illinois and the immediate region, but less than many throughout the eastern US. In this graphic, if the dot is red, then they have a higher per capita emissions, and lower if the dot is green. However, that comparison excludes agriculture share of emissions, because most communities do not have agriculture emissions included. So that was something additional that the county looked at, because we thought that was significant and important to look at due to the county's land use. The consultant team has also developed a forecast of where greenhouse gas emissions are likely to be in the coming decades without action. So the findings indicate that overall the emissions are likely to remain similar due to increases in population. In this chart, the gold dashed lines are where science tells us we need our community-wide emissions to be if we want to keep global warming to 2 degrees. That's the top line that's dotted, or 1.5 degrees, which is the bottom dotted line. So those are just a brief summary of what the greenhouse gas emission data has looked like. And I want to share that data with you all today. We are going to be sharing more information on what that information means, and how we should be planning accordingly, and what kind of actions could be taken so that we can reduce global warming by those amounts in temperature. And 2 events that are upcoming where we will be sharing more information about that with the public, and we also welcome committee members to be there as well. We have 2 community listening sessions coming up at the end of this month on Monday, March 27th. So one will be planned for in the Kane County Boardroom on that Monday from noon to 1 p.m. We will have light refreshments and snacks. And that event is also available online if you can't make it in person. There'll be the same availability to ask questions and hear all the information. And another community listening session will be in the evening at the Aurora Public Library District and Sanitary District from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. is also available online. And
Is that the same information being, okay.
it'll be the same event. So
Okay.
the idea with the community listening sessions is we are inviting members of the public to come. There'll be a brief presentation on the data and existing conditions presented by the consultant team. And then following the presentation, we will have an opportunity for everyone present to provide their feedback in written form to us so that we can take that in and read it later on. To kind of give the opportunity to have discussions for people to talk amongst themselves and kind of get ideas flowing. So we're really excited about these two events. I will send an email to all of the committee members and all of the board members today to invite you all and provide all the information about how to attend online. But please feel free to spread the word and invite anyone who you think would be interested. We are also planning to have another community listening session with City of Elgin, and it's going to be at their Earth Day Summit, which since I've made this presentation, the date for that will be April 29th. It's on a Saturday. It's the same day as the Shred event, but it will be later on in the afternoon.
It's also the same day as the plant stuff
Yep. There's lots of events happening.
and also special. Olympics.
It's the Shred event. Saturday. I think,
Farm
That-
Bureau. Do you want to talk about this?
oh yeah, I'll talk a little bit about the Farm Bureau meeting. So Jody and Miss Bates and I went to the Farm Bureau board meeting to present information specifically on the agriculture sector to the board members. So we had a really nice discussion and we talked about how farming techniques impact the climate. We learned a lot about what farming techniques are being done in the county, as well as what types of farms there are, from crops to livestock, and talked a little bit about how that impacts the climate and emissions. And it was a great discussion, and we were excited to engage with them and develop that relationship for including their perspective in the plan. Are there any questions before I move on?
Yeah. David Young.
Mhm.
Mr. Young?
Yes. I would be curious to how Kane County compares to the rest of the world, meaning industrial nations, India, China. If you could have that information, maybe when you update this presentation based upon the data you're going to be that you received, it would be curious to see how we compare to those other nations that are industrialized, especially China.
Yeah, we can definitely include that information. I'll reach out to the consultant and have them put that in there.
Great. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
And India too, because they are the two
Mhm.
biggest industrial nations along with United States. So that would be curious.
Mhm. Thank you. Any other?
Mr. Caius, please.
Yeah, this is Caius. Back to one of the slides there about the greenhouse gas by sector. There's
Mhm.
the last item was 34.3 for electricity. Seems sort of like an oxymoron that we have electricity and greenhouse gas. Is that for generation of electricity or?
I believe electricity use. So that's like electricity use within buildings.
Will create greenhouse gas?
So when, yes, the generation of electricity that's being used within buildings produces greenhouse gas because that electricity was being produced by fossil fuels.
So it's the generation more really the source?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
And also the use of it too. So the generation
The green-
and how
is
much
there-
is being used by the citizens of King County,
Does the use of electricity create greenhouse gas or
No.
the generation?
the generation.
So if we use less, we'll generate less.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
So that,
Thank you.
If we use that, if we use less,
Thank you.
it will cause less to be generated
Well-
someplace else.
Yeah, yeah.
so
Mr.
the
Ro-
question, so if we use coal to generate, that's the big issue. We use nuclear power, it's zero or less, or
Yeah, or solar?
Yeah, yeah.
or
Just
solar
looking at-
or wind.
And that information is within the renewable energy
right,
potential
right.
study too, looking at all the different sources.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mhm. Any other questions?
Any other questions? Nope. Move on, please.
Okay, great. I have some updates on an event that was hosted a couple weeks ago. So I coordinated a solar tour with Quad County Urban League and GRNE Solar. We had a career and educational workshop at the Kendall County Health Department. They hosted a classroom workshop where the solar company put on this really nice presentation to a Quad County Urban League classroom. The class focuses on workforce development. So the solar folks talked a little bit about how solar works, what the different types of solar panels are, how the technology has changed over the last few years. They talked also about what the culture of working in solar energy field looks like, career advice, and they talked a little about their prior professional experience in the field. And the students were able to ask questions. So it was kind of like a nice career focused event. And then afterward, we toured the Kendall County Health Department solar site. It was really cool to see because their site is 2.1 megawatts. So that's going to look very similar to Kane County's, at least land wise. So I put up some pictures so you can take a look. The photo on the left, that is just so you can see the size of the fence. They had a wooden fence and that was Jeremy opening up the fence. So just looking at how tall that's going to be with people next to it. The photo in the middle, there were adjacent neighbors that did have a view into the field. So just looking at what the surrounding area looks like as well. On the right-hand side, there's our project manager, Jeremy Horoff, and he was kind of giving a presentation on the field on what all the different parts of the field in the solar array, just kind of talking about what they do, which was cool. He talked a little bit about the inverters. That's what that equipment is right there that he's pointing to. And then the photo on the right, you kind of see how long the field goes. You almost can't really see the end of it. So it was really cool to be there. It's a nice sunny day. And then a photo of the solar panels. And he did say that the county solar panels are going to look differently because this project was implemented 2 years ago. So they have different solar panels that they're using today.
Significantly different or just?
I think the counties have a larger wattage
But
that they
look-
capture.
They look about the same. I mean, 'cause
It's,
they're not green or red or just.
They're all stacked up next to the jail.
mhm.
They're like,
Kind temporary fence.
it's like Santa Claus.
I mean, so
came
there's some
fence.
technology improvement then, right? We
Mhm.
will have over their 2-year-old ones,
I think, yes, I think the Kane County panels are
more
going to be,
efficient.
are not, I think they are able to capture more solar energy. So
Right.
their square
Or
footage.
the same foot,
Mhm.
which isn't that more efficient then? I mean, right?
Mhm.
So they're
I think they're
larger.
going to be larger too
Okay,
in scale.
okay.
This looks like a tracking system to me, which we will have.
Theirs is a tracking system. So we
Yeah.
were able to hear, so that what the tracking system means is the panels rotate throughout the day to follow the sun. And we were there when they were rotating actually, which was kind of cool. So there's we were able to see them rotating slowly, which was really cool.
It's like a sunflower.
Mhm.
Very quietly.
Very quiet.
Very
We
quiet,
heard like
with
a
no
little,
glare.
you could hear the birds chirping louder than anything happening on the field.
Wow.
Yeah, which was great. And there's a group photo of us.
You're
with all
way
the students.
outnumbered there.
Yeah, I know.
Are you sitting there?
Like,
I was squatting.
yeah, you didn't need to slouch down. Those guys look big.
And that's all I have today. If there are any questions, please feel free to reach out to me.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Did they give you any numbers on what their cost savings have been now that they've been doing this 2 years?
You don't, we could, yeah, I can get that information to
I
you.
was just curious as much as anything.
So they did have this nice sign, which I can't see anything on it right now, but they might have had some savings on that sign. Oh, thank you, Blair. It's possible that they put it on there, which I also thought, I took a photo of that, because I thought that that looked really nice and gave some good detail.
Lower County facilities.
Saving taxpayers $160,000 per year.
Perfect.
There you go.
Ours will be over that. Ours will be over $200,000 a year
Mhm.
with 5 million to 6 million.
And
saved.
lowering CO2 by over 50%.
Yeah.
And no county taxes dollars used.
Yeah, that's cool. That's a good sign.
That's right. Ours didn't even have to go to finance, but I think we did send it to, because people were saying, well,
Yeah.
what's our return on investment? And we said, well, there is no investment. So,
Infinity,
but
infinity.
yeah, infinity, yeah, divided by zero. Okay, thank you, Ms. Clee.
I have one
Um,
quick- You don't have a Google view of that, do you? You know, because you saw the houses in the, but how does it look, you know, like the street view?
Oh, look it up yourself.
Oh, I need the address.
I would say so that photo on the left
Right,
is kind of when I was driving in, all I could see was the fence.
okay.
So you couldn't see the panels from the
And you
street.
said that's what, a 6-foot fence or 8?
I think it's
Looking at
8
it,
or
it's
7.
8 because
Okay.
otherwise those guys.
8 or
would-
7.
It's required to be 8.
8.
Yeah, they look like 8.
Mhm.
like-
If- I didn't see anything when I was driving in.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
Nice program.
Yeah,
Any
very
questions?
nice.
Moving along for Madam Jobs Chair. Any new business? So I do have some comments. I believe that this climate action implementation plan is going to be something that we are going to be so proud of. It's going to be very professional, very well done, very thorough. And the real pride will come in the implementation. So this is a big year of work, but it's supposed to be hopefully wrapped up this year. And so next year will be the real year of work when we start implementing this, because as my team, Jody, Ms. Molnick, Ms. Cleve, Ms. Ryan, all wanted the title of this plan to not be climate action plan, but climate action implementation plan. So next year will be the implementation year. And this year is this fabulous year of getting this beautiful plan done. It's really going to be a great product. I hope that all of you will be able to come to one of our listening sessions because it's going to be on March 27th here in this room, correct? There will be lunch provided. They say there ain't no free lunch, but this time we're making an exception. We're going to have Subway or something like that, simple. But please come. We want your input as well as all of the members of the community. And I want the members of the community to come who come to see our support for our own plan. So it'll be noon on the 27th or 7 o'clock on the 6 o'clock on the 27th, like was in the presentation. So it's going to be just a fantastic.
Madam Chair, so is there going to be a presentation similar to today? Or slightly different?
Yes, so there'll be a more in-depth
Okay,
presentation.
thank you.
It'll probably be around 20 minutes and the rest of the time will be focused on
Questions and
public
answers.
input. And the whole meeting at the county and Aurora will be recorded. So if you can't make it, you can view it afterward and reach out to me and give me feedback.
Thank
It's going to
you.
be very interactive, so it'll be more fun if you're there. Mr. Caius, you look like you're,
No, well, I don't know if you're done with your comments.
nope,
I had a comment. Remember I might ask or two?
you have a comment?
Yes, a comment or two. I know it's,
Okay, I'm not quite done. I also wanted to say that we are interested right now in hiring one more person for the department. Hopefully we can find some grants that we can use because of all the work that's coming next year. Plus, because of the Illinois bill called CEJA, Climate and Equitable Jobs Act, and the federal bill called the IRA, the Inflation Reduction Act, there are incredible opportunities right now for Kane County residents to save money on green energy proposals. I was tabling last night for Sierra Club, but the program that I was showing people that came straight out of the Climate and Equitable Jobs Act was I had the list in my hand for Kane County what a family of four can make. And it was about $80,000. I think I didn't memorize it, but if a family is under $80,000 or so for four people, which $80,000 is a lot of money to a lot of people, you can get help from the Illinois Solar for All program to pay for solar panels on your house. And this is just one tiny example of the incentives that are coming through these bills that I want all of our residents to know about. I want everybody in Kane County to know that they can save money on an electric stove, on an electric dryer, on an electric heat pump, and get thousands and thousands of dollars back on insulation on their homes. So this is a plan that we've got for next year and this year, possibly. Mr. Caius,
Very
I am
exciting.
finished. Thank you, everybody. Thank
Under-
you to my fantastic team. Yes,
Under
sir.
the notation of other business from the members of the committee, I was able to attend the Fox River Summit yesterday in Burlington, Wisconsin, along with Karen Miller was there. And there were presentations on regenerative farming, mussels, lots of mussels, because they are our filter feeders, our little cleaner uppers in the river, and how we're saving them and finding, trying to save some of the endangered species. Excellent presentation on reptiles endangered in Wisconsin by a professor from University of Wisconsin. Also, our Fox River Day, which will be the third weekend of November, or September. Don't plan ahead. Where will you be on that day? We want to be out on the river. They're planning on having 100 groups participate with
Wow.
hopefully 3,000 people throughout the entire drainage of the Fox River to help clean it up and do activities that bring awareness to how valuable the river is to our economies, our lifestyle, our recreation, and our counties. Also, Jenny Camp Schiavone's 9-day canoe trip from the headwaters of the Fox River all the way down to the end, which was fascinating. If you get a chance to hear that, it's an interesting journey. And I think we should all plan to take that trip next year. Get your canoes ready to go.
Okay.
Neonicotinoid, there was a good presentation on neonicotinoids.
Neonicotinoids.
Yeah, pesticides and how that's affecting the watershed as well as the environment. The micro fauna in the river, and the fabulous Fox River Water Trail. An update on that too from Karen. So that was that. That was yesterday. It's been exciting week. Today, just to be aware, I want this committee to be aware that the Environmental Defenders of McHenry County's Water and Resources Protection Action Team and the McHenry County Department of Planning and Development are hosting a Friday. It's called Best Management Practices. They have 6 tours throughout the summer. They had a great one right in how they were regenerating and revitalizing the waterway in Algonquin last year. There'll be a whole bunch of them, but today at 1, from 1 to 2:30, there will be online a dark night. You'll hear McHenry County Audubon President talk about the impacts of light pollution on wildlife, as well as just generally how to best management practices for dark night. And that's at 1. And I can give you the contact or look up Environmental Defenders of McHenry County for that. If you've got nothing to do between 1 and 2:30 this afternoon, should be very interesting.
We'll probably still be at the Jobs Committee.
That's if we ever get to it.
Oh, that's right.
All right. Trying to talk fast. Sorry.
Mr. Athman.
Mr. Caius, are you done?
Yes, I'm done.
I would like to ask all these brilliant minds in the room if anybody has heard about the soil find at University of Illinois. Do you know
Soil
about that?
find.
Where they found, I think it was 30,000 jars of soil that they had captured from the mid 1800s. And they're going to be, nobody's heard about that? Okay.
Oh, okay.
Can you tell me more about it? Do you know?
No, but I can find the article and send it out.
That would be great, because
Yeah, I didn't memorize it, but it was fascinating.
yeah, and what an opportunity. They're saying if they they found soils, they've been captured, they've been collecting them from sites.
Was it in the basement of Altgeld Hall?
It was in a barn that was going to be torn down. And so they sent them in to say, go see if there's anything in there. And they found ball jars full of soil
Wow.
and collected from the 1880s on. And now they're going to be able to do a soil comparison.
And labeled. So
Yeah.
Wow.
And
great resource.
it's an opportunity that's nowhere else in the world right now.
My
So they
gosh,
can check
thanks.
how our soil has changed in the last 100+ years.
I hope they don't open up the jar under a,
It could be a movie.
yeah.
Jody, I'd appreciate having that information because I was fascinated by that.
Thanks. Thank you for telling me about that. Okay.
I
Are
would-
we ready for,
I would move that the reports be placed on file. It's Caius.
Ross seconds.
okay, thank you. Roll
Or
call.
actually, how about you? I'll ask for unanimous consent. Is there any
There
objections?
you go.
Yeah.
It's consent, even better. Okay, we appear to have unanimous consent. May I have a motion to adjourn?
So
Oh.
moved.
Thank you.
Roth was second.
Strathman moves, Roth seconds. All in favor, say
Aye.
aye. Thank you, everybody.